That man is lying to you.
Sir, that man is lying to you. Mr. Kang kept staring at the contract worth hundreds of millions of won. A deal that could expand his company across 3 new cities and make him the most powerful developer in Southeast Asia. But then he was interrupted. A small voice cut through the silence of the room. Sir, that man is lying to you. The room immediately went still. Mr. Kang slowly looked up, confused. He wasn't sure why the new maid son was standing at the doorway of his office. Just a few days earlier, his longtime housekeeper had resigned without warning to care for her aging parents back in Busan. The agency had sent someone new. When Amora arrived, she was not alone. She came with a small boy. Sir, this is my son, Kofi, she said, her accent warm and unhurried. His school is on holiday and I had no one to leave him with. I promise he will not be a problem. You will not even know he is here. Kofi staring back without blinking, unafraid, and completely unbothered by the cold silence of a billionaire's home. Keep him out of my office, Mr. Kang said, and walked away. In his world, children were noise and distraction. He had no patience for either. But as the days passed, something began to shift. Amora worked with a precision that impressed even Mr. Kang, who was not easily impressed. The house was spotless. His schedule was managed without being asked. His coffee was always the right temperature at the right time. But it was Kofi who slowly began to change the atmosphere of the house in ways no one could explain. Sometimes Mr. Kang would find small folded paper cranes placed on the edge of his desk, a children made in school. Other times he would notice that the potted plant near his window, which had been dying for months, had been watered and moved closer to the light. Each time, Amora would appear. I'm sorry, sir. Kofi means well. He won't touch anything again. And each time, Mr. Kang simply said, it's fine. And each time, Amora looked at him like she wasn't sure she had heard correctly. Because the Mr. Kang she had heard about, cold and ruthless, a man who had demolished entire villages to build shopping complexes, did not say it's fine about anything. Something was shifting inside him. At first, he didn't notice it. But he began coming home from the office earlier than usual. Sometimes he would slow his steps near the kitchen and glance in without entering, just to see Kofi sitting cross-legged on the floor, reading a book far too thick for a boy his age, or arranging something with a focused hands. One evening, Mr. Kang finally spoke first. What are you reading? Kofi looked up without startling. A book about bridges, how they decide which ones to build and which ones will fall. Mr. Kang raised an eyebrow. And which ones fall? The ones built on weak ground, Kofi replied. Then he tilted his head. Do you build bridges, sir? Buildings, Mr. Kang said. Kofi nodded, as though filing that away. Same thing, he said, and looked back at his book. Mr. Kang stood there a moment longer than he intended. Then he walked away. But that night, for the first time in years, he did not work past midnight. From that day on, Kofi was sometimes allowed to sit in the corner of Mr. Kang's office while Amora worked nearby. He never asked questions during meetings. He never made noise. He simply sat and read, or watched, or thought, in that private way that reminded Mr. Kang of no child he had ever met. Sometimes Mr. Kang would glance toward the corner and find Kofi already watching him, not with curiosity, but with something closer to assessment. It made Mr. Kang feel, strangely, like he was being studied by someone who already knew more than he was supposed to. But one afternoon, everything changed. Mr. Kang was deep in a meeting with Director Lim, one of his oldest and most trusted business partners. They were discussing a major land acquisition on the outskirts of the city, a deal that had been in motion for nearly a year. Everything is ready, once you sign, we move immediately. Demolition begins within the week. Director Lim said. The residents? Mr. Kang asked. Already handled. The eviction notices were processed last month. The land is legally clear. Kofi, sitting quietly in the corner with his book open on his lap, did not look up. But his hands went still. After the meeting ended, Director Lim stepped out to take a phone call. Mr. Kang stood and stretched, walking toward the window. Amora slipped in with a tea. Kofi closed his book. He stood up, walked to the desk, and looked at the contract lying open. He did not touch it. He only looked at the name of the land, at the coordinates printed in small font at the bottom of the page, at the signature line waiting for Mr. Kang's name. Then he looked at Director Lim through the glass wall of the office, still on his phone in the hallway. Something moved behind Kofi's eyes. He walked back to his corner and sat down. When Director Lim returned, he and Mr. Kang resumed their positions across the desk. Mr. Kang picked up his pen. The room was quiet. He leaned forward, ready to sign. "Sir." The voice landed like something dropped from a great height. Mr. Kang's pen stopped. "Sir. That man is lying to you." Everyone in the room turned. Kofi was standing now, his book held at his side, his face completely calm. Director Lim laughed, a short, uncomfortable one. "The child, ISS this your Kofi." Amora's voice was tight. "That is enough." But Mr. Kang raised his hand. "Can you explain?" Kofi nodded without flinching. "That land is not legally clear. The eviction notices were never properly served. I heard him say that on the phone last week. He was talking to someone about forging the processing dates. If you sign that contract, everything built on that land can be challenged in court. The whole project collapses. And the people living there, they still have rights. He knows. He just didn't tell you." The room went completely silent. Director Lim's face had changed. "This is absurd, a child is." "How did you hear that conversation?" Mr. Kang asked Kofi, ignoring the man entirely. "You left your office door open. I was in the hallway returning my book to my bag." He was speaking loudly. "He didn't see me." Director Lim, sitting, said nothing. And his silence said everything. Slowly, Mr. Kang placed the pen down on the desk. "Get out of my office," he said. Not to Kofi. Not to Amora. Later that evening, after Director Lim had left and the lawyers had been called and the full extent of the deception had begun to unravel, Mr. Kang asked Amora if he could speak with Kofi alone for a moment. Amora nodded and stepped out. Mr. Kang sat down across from the boy. "Were you afraid?" "A little, but the people on that land would have been more afraid. And they didn't know what I knew." "You could have said nothing, it wasn't your problem." "My mother works in your house, that makes it my problem." Mr. Kang looked at the boy, for the first time since he had arrived. "You said bridges fall when they're built on weak ground." "Yes, sir." "You weren't talking about bridges." "No, sir." The next morning, Mr. Kang's legal team launched a full audit of the land deal. Director Lim's fraud was confirmed and the partnership was dissolved. The land acquisition was restructured from the ground up, this time legally, and with the community properly consulted. Months later, instead of a demolition site, that neighborhood had a new community center, rebuilt roads, and a library, the first in the district. On the day it opened, a reporter asked Mr. Kang what had changed his approach to development. "I hired someone who raised a son who reads books about bridges." The rest followed naturally. In the back of the crowd that had gathered, Kofi stood beside his mother, his next book already tucked under his arm. He didn't smile for the cameras. But he did look satisfied. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing in a room full of powerful men is a quiet child who was paying attention.